Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know.
Do it for Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. Hey. Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, that's my favorite show. Do it for Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. Hey. Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, big hopes and dreams as we cover our kings. Never cover the kingdom, but we loving our kings. And we covered your prayers as we doing our thing. Big Deuce with the par, Lil Mo on the screen. Solo or together, still do it for team. Never switch up for $1 or revenue stream. So we always got each other, balance out the beam. Deuce and Mo, and that's the end of the theme song. Do it for Deuce and Mo.
We
Deuce and Mo.
are live!
Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, that's my favorite.
Happy
show.
Thursday night. It's almost Friday morning. Let's be honest about it. All right. Adjustments being made. Very important adjustments by Morgan at this hour at nearly midnight. How are we doing? Oh, man. What a day it's
What
been.
up, Deuce?
Hey.
Hey, Morgan.
Always very important.
I'm rooting for y'all.
Yeah. How about the basketball sickos here late? We appreciate you guys being here. Crazy day. And it was like, we could have done the podcast from the San Francisco studios, but it was so jam-packed today because the Sharks were playing, the Warriors were playing, and the Kings. You had people everywhere. Not a good spot to really do the podcast. And you're like, oh, dude, Carlin, Bojack, they probably need to go to the bathroom. Let's get back to Sacramento, do the podcast a little later than usual. And, if people are here hanging out, great. If not, whatever, man. We'll do this for just us. I don't give a shit at this point.
You guys are awesome.
We watched the game, and it was another Kings loss. 0-2 since a big trade. And we were on this morning, last night. We've been on a lot. I feel like
And these people
this
have
might
been
be a
with
loopy
us.
pod, and we appreciate you guys being up late.
Yeah. But we're all up late together. So thanks for being here. But it's like most of you have been on this journey with us. Feels like the last week has just been like boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. But guess what? We're all sick. We are sick human beings. And this is what we all love to do together.
Mhm. I see some angry people in chat too. Hey, guys, let's all namaste together. It's almost midnight. There's no way you can be this angry this many hours after the game. We'll talk it through. There are definitely some concerns. I get it. We can talk about it. Also, appreciate the love. Stefan says, loved y'all tonight.
Aw, thanks. We had fun.
I appreciate that. It's always tough. Pre and post game is post game after a loss. You're just like, I don't know if anyone's watching it right now, but I'm just gonna do
Be
what
us.
we do, huh?
Yeah. Be us. Do what we do. And I mean, sometimes easier than others.
Yep. How's your headphones? You all right?
One sounds whatever. Could just be my brain.
I loved how stoked Deuce was at the deadline at 11:59 this morning. Yeah, dude. Also, Gabriel, dude, you can't just spam the chat. Oh, you did this last night where you
What
said
did
the
you do?
same thing, Levine trash, over and over again. And we got to chill, man. So we'll go ahead. This will be a little warning. We just got to chill. You don't want to clog the chat. People are chatting. All right. And I get it saying one. I get it one time and yeah, sure. But I want to read the chat. So let's do it. All right. Appreciate you guys being here. If you have not done it yet, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. I can't believe you guys are still up right
I
now.
know.
You guys are absurd. So we appreciate you guys supporting our coverage. So let's do it. Deuce and Mo. We're coming down in 3, 2, 1. Hit my music.
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.
Oh, welcome into the Deuce and Mo podcast. Recording this very late on a Thursday night into a Friday morning. The Kings have completed an NBA trade deadline. It's come and gone with moves galore. We knew about the LaVine one, Valančiūnas yesterday. They add Jake LaRavia today from Memphis. We'll talk about that. But they also had a game that they needed to go play today. Second night of a back-to-back. After getting smacked around by Orlando last night, you're heading to Portland. On the surface, you're going, the Blazers?
The Blazers?
That team's not any good.
But are they?
They had won 9 of 10, and during that span, the number 1 defensive team in the NBA. Well, they looked all of that and more tonight. They got the win against the Sacramento Kings, who struggled at times on both ends, 108-102. The Kings now 25-26. They return home to play the Pelicans. Then they play the Mavs on the road and the Pelicans twice before the break. This podcast presented by our friends over at Santivo Vineyards and Winery. I'm Deuce Mason. That's Morgan Reagan. Mo, what a whirlwind it's been. How are you?
Good.
Yeah,
I think
we're
I don't
alive.
even know. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good start. And what a day it's been. I think I'm curious if the Kings had won, if like my adrenaline, like second win would just be like, who cares, Fox? Breathe it in. But I think after just another loss, post De'Aaron Fox trade deadline, you know, you get to those moments where it's not panic button, it's not scary time, it's none of those things. You have to like be realistic. You have to let it all kind of come together. But it's still just like, oh, can it come together faster?
And it needs to, right? And that's the challenge. You know, this was game 51 tonight. There are 82 games in an NBA season. Everything's so tight in the West. We know it's not like this loss was devastating to the Kings' chances of being a play-in or a playoff team, but like you have to start winning games. Breaking news. I really look at tonight and I'm just like, man, another tough challenge. I know we talked about this on the pod last night, but I'm like, dude, Portland, they just have everything that hurts the Kings from a size perspective. And you're like, God, this young team's playing good basketball. I saw them play the Pacers the other night where Halliburton went scoreless in the game.
Yeah.
Scoreless.
Yeah.
And they took control and they've been playing great basketball. You look at their roster, they have 11 players who are 6'8" or taller. 6'8" or taller. And I felt like nothing was easy for the Sacramento Kings tonight, unless they got out in transition.
Yeah. And you know, that's going to happen at times, but I think when you see two matchups back to back in Orlando and Portland, where it's like big ass dudes out there, and it's not about having the more talented individuals. It's about physically not being able to match up to get you that W. And I'll say this, it was so much nicer having Jonas Valančiūnas come off the bench, come into the game, be that big body. First game as a Sacramento King. Obviously excited to see more, especially as Sabonis fouled out in this game. But it's not just about having a big in the paint, big in the middle. It's about having that length that you can kind of compare to within the outside on the wing spots. Like you just see how much life is more difficult for a team when there's so much length. Jeremy Grant, for example, when he was on DeMar DeRozan, that turnaround jumper, and he kept tapping it, active hands, and then just blocked it. When you have longer guys, you can just do so many other things. I just wish there was a little bit more length on the Sacramento Kings, even though they have someone coming.
And with that said, they only lose by 6 points tonight on a night where Portland was unbelievable from three-point land. Portland came into this game shooting 34% on the season from three. That's 26 in the NBA. Last 10 games, it's up to 36%. Not a really good three-point shooting team. Tonight, 16 of 40. Anthony Simons hit half of those. He hit 8 of 12 from downtown. On the other side, Sacramento was just 10 of 30 from three-point land. I feel like the Kings are playing a little too much zone for my liking. And I get they want to mix up looks, but man, either they got to figure out what they want to do in the zone, okay? Because these guys are getting comfortable for three. And I think some of these closeouts by the Kings are just late. Guys are catching it. And I know, like, hey, they're bad 3-point shooters or they're 34% from three. I don't really care.
Not against the Kings.
When you see a couple go in and you're not closing out the right way or closing out hard enough, running guys off the line, it's just problematic. And that zone is tough to deal with. Like, if they just swing the ball around, I think Portland did a good job moving the ball. It led to some really good looks for the Portland Trailblazers, especially in that first half.
Yeah, like usually as a basketball player, you'll enjoy playing against a zone. It's when a team will mess with you when they are able to jump back and forth, right? Into a zone, into a man, really just mess with and disrupt your offense. But I think for the most part, when you see that zone a couple of times and you're feeling good and you see how it's also a newer team playing together, newer individuals playing on the floor together, and they might not know each other well enough to be communicating the right way, to be in the right spots, whatever it may be. It's basketball. Like, it's a zone. You should be able to be in those spots. But at the same time, like, you're just seeing people a step too late. And that step too late, any centimeters, inches for some of these guys in the NBA, they can shoot with even fingertips coming right into their face.
And let's be honest, part of the reason they're probably playing more zone is because of their starting lineup features a bunch of guys that aren't very good with their on-ball defense.
Yeah.
You got Zach LaVine, Malik Monk, who I think puts the effort in, but still you're not going to be like, oh my God, what a defensive player. And then DeMar DeRozan. And then who is on your back line? Domantas Sabonis, who I thought had some great defensive moments in this game. I think he did a lot of great things. He did foul out. A lot of offensive fouls for him. Those illegal screens caught up. But I think this is the challenge, right? You have put a team together that wasn't really great defensively before the trade, but now after, you're starting a group that is really offensive focused and not a lot of perimeter defense. And I thought tonight, this is a great example of this. Like, they feel so forced. They feel so forced to keep those guys on the floor because, hey, they're all-stars. Their
the names,
name
the
value.
money, the whatever.
When, I got to be honest, I'm looking around going, man, I could use some Keon Ellis right now. Give me some Keon Ellis. And those are the decisions that, like, Doug Christie's going to have to look at and go, man, right now, maybe I need this. And Keon only played like 2.5 minutes in that fourth quarter. And he had his issues tonight with Shaedon Sharpe, too. I'm not acting like he was perfect, but I'm like, dude, I need to mix it up. I need to throw a different look at Simons. I need to throw a different look at somebody out there because there are so many guys to pick on for Sacramento.
Whenever we talk in the post game and then we bring up like, oh yeah, DeMar DeRozan on some of those closeouts, it's like, it's not that we give him the excuse, I feel like, but I feel like that we always just identify, yeah, but we know he's going to be like that. Yeah, but we know he's not going to close down. And it's like, yeah, but that's a problem. Like, we have to address that it's like a problem and not just like yeah, but it's DeMar and you need him on the offensive end because you need guys doing at least a little bit of both. And I'm not just putting on DeMar, I'm just using that as an example. Even with Zach LaVine, like, we've already talked about what some of his defensive flaws are. And then there's these moments when you see his athleticism kick in and stay with something. And same with DeMar, like, you see his IQ kick in and he just like stripped someone. I think he even finished with 3 blocks in this game, right? So he utilizes his length and different skills on the defensive end at times, but it's like you're saying, that ball pressure is not enough. The perimeter pressure is not enough with just Keegan out there at times. And then it puts Domantas Sabonis in a tough place as well.
Yeah, it puts him in a really tough Domantas Sabonis tonight was great protecting the paint. Like, his verticality tonight was fantastic. Numerous drives by Ain, by Kamara, where he stayed vertical and made life challenging on the person attacking the paint. It's not like the Blazers were awesome in the paint either. In the paint, they scored 38 points, 19 of 40. Not a great number, right? And then you look at Sacramento, they weren't good in the paint. 32 points at 16 of 36. So it was a rough night in the paint, but for Sacramento to do all right down there, that's the other thing I'm thinking about tonight is like we're nitpicking about not nitpicking. We're critiquing the defensive problems tonight.
Uh-huh.
You lost. You only gave up 108 points. It's
Yeah.
not like the Blazers were crushing it. They shot 43%. The problem is the threes. A team that's not good at shooting threes won the game because they hit 16 of them. And if you have the right closeout, if you're not playing off a guy, if you're not going under a screen when you're not supposed to, like those details all of a sudden change the game a little bit. And that's what's a little bit frustrating. I thought offensively, unless you have more on the defense, I'm sorry.
No, please no. Go.
Offensively, 102 points. I'm not concerned about the offense.
You shouldn't be. It's been 2 games.
It's all that's the thing. And I know some fans don't want to hear it. The it's been 2 games thing.
But I mean, like, what do you want? A magic wand? Like, I don't know. Like, the magic wand doesn't come unless its name is LeBron James or Kevin Durant. You know what I mean?
Well, and even so, those things don't always go smooth
right.
either. I mean, I think the point I'm trying to get at is people get really excited about the deadline. I talk about this every year. You think about adding a name, okay? And you go, oh my God, you plug them in and you just go. It's like, it doesn't work like that. And with the Kings schedule right now, coming off this road trip, they've got a day off and then they play Orlando and then they play in Portland. This team has had no practice time. And by the way, tomorrow, they're not practicing. Mm-mm. It's a back-to-back, right? So they're not practicing tomorrow. They play Saturday against the Pelicans. It's tough. And so part of this right now is they're trying to learn each other and build chemistry in game. They can go through some things at shoot around, some basic principles, but like part of it is they just have to go do it. And they don't have a lot of practice time right now to do it. This is why in-season trades are tough. That's why I've been a big proponent of, you don't always have to wait till the deadline to make these moves, because there's not a lot of time left.
Always.
Right?
Yeah, you get pushed up against that deadline.
Right. If you can make them in January or December when you no, you need to make a move. I know it can be challenging. At least you can get guys acclimated, get some practice time and figure it out. You're trying to jam it all together and build this chemistry really, really fast. I think they can do it, especially on the offensive end, but it's going to take a second. And maybe the Pelicans are the perfect team to do that against because of how poor their defense has been.
I guess, too, I look at this season and I look at the way that they put themselves in a hole early, right? And whether it was under Mike Brown, the roster construction, a little bit of everything, whatever. But I never thought that after the trade deadline, even if De'Aaron was still on the team, that this team was just going to turn around. Now, when we even saw the winning streak, it felt a little bit more real because it wasn't just 3 games. It was 7, and it looked different and all the different things. But then that was also like hitting some of their lulls, and the flaws were exposed with the roster and the length and everything. And so I guess now that you have all these changes with this roster right now for the Sacramento Kings, I still don't have all this hope that in the Western Conference that they're going to be in a certain place when it comes to the postseason. Like maybe playing. And if that is the case, great. At least you got there in such a chaotic year, but that just can't be the case going into the off season into the next year.
Yeah. What's the ceiling? I do like the moves that they made overall. We'll talk about those in a bit. Ellis in the chat says tons of teams made trades at the deadline. Kings can't use that as an excuse. Again, I don't think the Kings are making an excuse. I'm not making an excuse. I'm literally just pointing out some facts about this, and this is not just exclusive to the Sacramento Kings, okay? We haven't seen all these teams play a ton of games since the deadline. We just haven't, so we don't really know. The deadline was today. We'll see how Jimmy Butler fits into Golden State. Golden State, for example, they're going to have to play a totally different style. Jimmy Butler's not running off screens and playing in split action and going crazy, right? Like, this is just a different type of system. They're going to have to play different. That's going to take a second. Are you going to check on the dog or something? Okay.
What if he's barking because something's wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. And so people, you can't make excuses. No one's making excuses. Just it's a fact. Like in-season trades can be complicated. And it's even more complicated when you're a Kings team that's like a little bit flawed. So you're trying to fit in someone like LaVine, who is a guy that likes to have the ball in his hands, right? You tries to make things happen. You're trying to fit it all in together. And you're doing that in the first 2 games against 2 really strong defensive teams. I'm not totally surprised it doesn't look all the way smooth. And then it did look smoother in the second half. I think the thing that these guys have to get better at, and maybe this just comes with like learning each other's styles. Like LaVine was talking about this after the Magic loss about how Sabonis can lead with the pass and how he's getting used to it because it's different than what he had with Vucevic in Chicago. Those little things, right? They're learning that in game instead of at practice. That's what's a little bit challenging. So anyway, my point is, I think it'll be smoother. I thought in the second half it was when they're making quick decisions, pushing the ball. They have to stick to that. I think the ball's gotten too sticky at times. There's sometimes guys aren't looking to attack or it gets too sticky, and it's like, we got to move this ball. We have too many good offensive players. We have to get it moving.
Well, and it's like we kind of said, they did a better job of trying to control what they could control, being more physical. We saw them do a lot better job with that. Someone like Kamara was just making their life so difficult, but there's going to be so many teams with that type of player, whether it's a shorter guy, taller guy, it doesn't matter. Kamara was everywhere on the floor, made their life difficult. And that's like the energy, the personality, the mentality that I want someone to always have on the Sacramento Kings. And you can't teach that shit. Like that just comes from within. But that's the type of dog within that I want to see on the Kings roster.
Tamani Kamara was 2 of 13, 0 for 4 from 3. And if you stared at this box score, you're like, okay,
what did he do?
I mean, 14 rebounds, great. This guy impacted the game.
Every possession.
Defensively, the motor, the way he crashes the offensive glass, even if he doesn't get a rebound, maybe gets his fingertip on a ball and just like crashes hard, right? He is just mixing it up. He plays with a physicality and an edge. He knows how to sell calls. Like, he is just a winning basketball player out there. I thought he was tremendous in this game.
Well, and I guess we say that, and I know we'll talk about him, but I'm just kind of going everywhere because whatever. But you think about someone like Jake LaRavia coming in, and we talked about how he's someone that makes winning plays, how he does all the little things, the hustle plays, blah, blah, blah. And seeing a guy like that tonight and just Kamara, it was like, oh, no, you need someone to match that same energy. You just need that one person. And then going back to the offense, like you're saying, the ball sticking and these guys learning things in game right now together and not in a practice behind closed doors. Yeah, you got to factor all that in. You don't have to make an excuse. But at the same time, for me, how I'm going to look at it, even though it's sad after another loss, and I'm just kind of like, no, this time's been a little bit difficult after such a bright time, and the beam was so bright. I'm just looking at it like trying to be realistic and take a step back and go, okay, let me give it a bigger sample size. Like second game together, first game for Jonas Valančiūnas.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the fight tonight looked good. I think it looked way better than the Orlando game.
Did.
The Orlando game was like disgusting. You're like, really? 2 really bad defensive quarters?
Yes.
You had breakdowns tonight, but I thought the effort was there. I mean, second chance points, 19-19. Rebounding was even 47-47. That was pretty encouraging because the Kings offense just couldn't score enough. And stops matter, all that stuff. But like, if the Kings were missing some good looks, I thought, LaVine and DeRozan took some shots too. And then Sabonis really could not get anything going. That's my one area of concern. This is before the deadline. We had mentioned this on the podcast. The Malik Sabonis 2-man game is very lethal. It has been this year. Teams are like
doing their homework,
blowing it up now.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of that 2-man game is, okay, it's a screen, Sabonis rolls to the basket, and Malik is so good with those passes. He just finds an area,
splits
great
a defender
pocket.
with it.
Yeah. And Sabonis can finish at the rim, or if he doesn't feel like it's there, maybe he attacks with a floater. Teams are not allowing them to get that now. And I think one thing I'd like to see, have Sabonis set a high pick and roll. We're talking about at the mid-court line, and let Monk get downhill to create. It doesn't always have to be Sabonis rolling to the basket. Mix in some different looks, because when Monk goes to the rim, he can go dunk on somebody's head. He can kick out for 3. He can get a floater. just mix up those looks a little bit. I think they've relied so heavy on that Monk Sabonis pick and roll, and now with Monk playing so many more minutes, these teams, especially who have size and length, they're like, yeah, we're not allowing you to do that.
Well, and maybe once they start utilizing some of their other weapons, like Zach LaVine, and it allows them to still get those looks, but it's not the number one look that they're always trying to get, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just everyone isn't a weapon yet, but we even saw Zach LaVine tonight. Like, I thought he was too passive last night, and I know then it's like, oh, the shot selection tonight. Beggars can't be choosers.
He's a tough shot maker too, and he's a good shooter.
But not
I'll give
only
him
that,
sure.
though, it's like he's trying to get a feel. Like, you're seeing it for the second game, trying to get a feel. Now, if we're 7 games of this and we're talking like this, then we have a problem. But that's not going to be the case.
One thing you noticed too, and another example of like guys just like, what are we doing offensively right now? When Valančiūnas came in the game in the first half, he got a post up, and literally everyone
stayed still.
No Kings player moved, and then like because Valančiūnas is looking around looking for a cutter, he wants to get the team moving. Everyone's standing around, so Valančiūnas just went 1-on-1, and it's like, okay, like guys, the movement has to be there. We got to create opportunities for others. I understand that LaVine can go get a bucket. I know Malik can go get a bucket sometimes. DeRozan can create for himself an ISO. But this can't be like your turn, my turn type thing. Like, we need to
find a flow.
Let's get some DHOs with LaVine. He can pop a three. He can get downhill.
Flow with
his ability to change space, his body control around the rim. Like, these are all things we can highlight. And right now, it's just clunky. It's very clunky, and you just hope that they can get it together. I'm saying this with the understanding that, like, yeah, it's 2 games in, and they've just played games together, and 1 game in for Valančiūnas, like you said.
Just breaking down what we saw.
I do have a question for you.
What's your question?
Professor Oak on Twitter,
Yes.
big time Kings fan,
Yeah.
sharp basketball mind, and I didn't think about this. I'm paraphrasing here, but he was saying on Twitter that the Kings made a mistake by not just bringing LaVine off the bench to start because they don't have practice time. Like, slow play it here. Like, let him get comfortable, let him feel the game, see the game before just throwing him into the fire. I gotta be honest, I thought it was a very interesting point. I'm like, yeah, this guy hasn't played games in 10 days. He gets no practice time, and you just put him in the starting lineup. It's like, all right, Zach, go figure it out. Where like, hey, you know what? Like, let's big picture this.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start Keon with Malik and those guys. Let them do their thing, and we'll try kind of use Zach. We'll kind of usher him into the starting lineup as he gets more comfortable, just based on the schedule.
Based on the schedule, plus I think you mainly could use the, hey, you haven't played for 10 days as the main excuse, right? Like, we want to get you, just like stagger you into the rotation. But the only thing that I'm going to challenge that comment with, and I don't agree with this, but this is what everyone always comes at me with, is, oh, you can't do that to a guy that makes this much money. Oh, you can't do that to a name that's used to starting all the time. Like, no, you're not going to do.
Yeah,
you're not going to have him come off the bench to start off his season with the Kings. But no. My point is, I hate those things that I just said. Like, I don't agree with that, and I think Professor Oak having that opinion, perspective, whatever the comment. It's like, yeah, it's a fair analysis. There we go. Analysis to bring up and to say. And I think sometimes we overthink all this shit, even when you and I are sometimes like, well, why can't DeMar be on the bench for a second while Keon is, like getting up in guys' grills and defending and putting on that perimeter defense? And people are like, no, why would you ever have DeMar on the bench in the fourth quarter? You can't do that to your guys. You want disgruntled stars and blah, blah. And it's like, we're just trying to play some fucking basketball.
Trying to win games. We're trying to win games. And if we need to stop in this,
but you have to remember politics and all the other shit.
There's a line, but there's also like just understanding, like, hey, you could still be a important part. And that's where I think the Kings are in a tough spot right now with the starting lineup. Is like, I think Keon should probably be in there, and one of those guys should be coming off the bench. And we'll see where they go with that. But I'm interested to see how they look against the Pelicans. in the chat, I think it's Lav, says the Blazers are finally clicking now. Dude,
They look good.
this is not... Watching them, they seem like a really connected group. They've got a good balance of young guys and like vet like Jeremy Grant and, Anthony Simons. These guys have been around for a minute. I like their team. They're young, they're athletic, they're long. They're clicking and they're doing it because they're just locked in defensively. And then it creates the vibes off that. Like you could just, they share the ball. They seem pretty unselfish. Shaden Sharp tonight was nasty. Like some of the shot making from him, I'm like,
my God.
what do you do? Like, what do you? And then, and he's such a great athlete. And then Simons, his shot making. We mentioned this on postgame. The Blazers, every bad team, it seems like, has like an okay stretch. We've all been there with the Kings, right? Where they have a 27-win season, but like it'll be January and they win like 4 or 5, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Is it
That's the
the
breakdown.
And you start looking at the schedule like, dude, if they win this game, all of a sudden you're looking at it. You never know. The Blazers are playing really strong basketball, right? I mean, winning 10 of 11. And these aren't like joke wins. These aren't like fluky things.
They're like strong, like the way that they're playing too, not just like finishing it off with a dub. I think one of their losses, it's like, it was against OKC.
Yes, their loss was against Oklahoma
loss.
City. They're 23 and 29. You're like, that record sucks. Well, the Kings are 25 and 26.
Yep.
The Blazers are fighting to potentially be a play-in team.
Yep.
It's insane.
That's where we're at. And that's why, there's not a lot of room to be like, oh, you gotta grow together. But it's like, you have to be realistic about it. Like, that's just where you're at with this Kings team. And not only is it like, new players coming in, you also fired your head coach. You have a new head coach who's working with the coaching staff that was obviously, working under Mike Brown. It's just, everything is so different. But again, these weren't things that we're talking about when they're winning, right? It's like none of this crap comes up. Everything's just working. But when it is kind of like this and then more changes are made, it's like, everything kind of gets talked about.
So who is bad in the West? Utah? Like everyone else is like San Antonio's trying to win, right? Like the Blazers are winning. I don't know if their front office wants them to, but they are. And they're playing some good basketball. The Kings are trying to win. This Western Conference is absolutely brutal. And the Kings have a good opportunity here. 3 of the next 4 against the Pelicans. 3 of the next 4 games against the Pelicans. Anything else stand out to you tonight?
Let me see. Let me make sure. I mentioned Valančiūnas. One other thing that stood out. You and I both agreed with this, and this goes to the offense being stagnant at times. Keegan Murray needs to get his. And when we say he needs to get his, it's just like there's so many times that you see these bursts of like just no one can stop him going downhill, getting the rack. He has a turnaround jumper. He can elevate over guys. And I don't necessarily think that's his fault all the time, but at the same time, if you don't demand the ball in this game of these talented offensive players on your team, it feels like you're going to get lost in it. And that goes to how Doug also needs to find his way of how he wants to either stagger rotations, figure out how he communicates that with the guys. Either way, I just want to see a little bit more Keegan.
One other thing I'd like to see is maybe they add another point guard to this roster.
Thank you. I've been saying that all day.
They officially have 3 roster spots open.
Yes.
After the trade deadline. You have to imagine one of those will go to Isaac Jones, maybe getting promoted on a 2-way deal to a full-time spot potentially. Although, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's running out of 2-way days. But you're also, I'm looking at it going like, where does he find minutes now when you've got Trey and Valančiūnas? Like, that's going to be challenging for him. But they need some sort of point guard. I mean,
yeah, they need a true point guard, and that's nothing again. Here's what you do. here's what you do next, okay, Monty? You go and you find your point guard. You find your true, pure point guard that can defend, right? Like, how nice would that be? That can play make. I love that I'm just like mentioning what I want, but I don't know who this is at the moment in time. And then what that would do is have Malik come back off the bench, which...
Well, I'm not saying you bring him as a starter.
I know you're not.
I'm saying like
I know you're not.
Yeah.
But I'm just, after all day of talking about getting a backup point guard, I'm now under, like, after seeing tonight's game and looking at the defense, I go, you have to add more perimeter defense. And De'Aaron was able these last couple of years to really add that to his game and find out that he could be a much better defender. My point is, you've got to, you have to have that with that starting group.
Well, if Ben Simmons gets bought out, would he entertain the idea of coming to Sacramento?
Probably not.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't get enough minutes. I don't know. Because then you get into the minutes game. But Ben Simmons, you're like, God, I mean, 6'10" with size. And you're not asking Ben Simmons, hey, can you come back and be an all-star? And remember when you used to like try to actually score? It's like, no, Ben, just come in, like
play
can
defense
you play
and pass.
Yeah, and that's all we need from you. You know.
And you're even thinking about like putting him in that like point guard position.
Put him in lineups with that
just
group.
have a positionless.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's played that before.
Yeah.
I think someone like Devin Carter, I just don't look at him as a point guard. He's a
Not.
guard. He's a guard,
He's not.
and he's a rookie that is still trying to find his way. I don't feel like he's in great shape. I still think he's struggling with that. The shot making has not been there for him. He just doesn't look comfortable. I think he's overthinking things. I would say tonight, I thought defensively there were a couple times. I'm like, oh, cool. He took a charge, drew an offensive foul, got a steal. Like, I saw more of like, oh, that's the Devin Carter like we saw in college. Like, that's the guy.
Just playing basketball.
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see about that.
Yeah, I'm down for a backup point guard. I enjoy this. When I say enjoy, I believe in this starting lineup going in the right direction, but you also, like we said, you have to be ready and willing to tweak.
Hey, and if you need different things in a closing lineup, you got to tweak it. Sorry.
You have to.
Like,
I don't care who is who. I say that, but that's not how the NBA works.
Can we give some love to the massive crowd of basketball sickos who are here this late? I mean, it's after midnight and the Kings lost.
Give me a hell yeah.
You guys.
Well, hell yeah to you being here, not that the Kings lost. Appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't done it yet, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We need to talk about the Kings trade deadline, put a bow on that, and then we need to look ahead to Kings and Pelicans. And then it's night. The Kings do have a press conference tomorrow because, of course, I'm like, oh, tomorrow's off. And then the Kings go, hey, we've had a lot of press conferences lately. Here's Monty McNair, Jonas Valančiūnas, and Jake LaRavia. That's at 2:00 though, so that's all good.
It's all good.
We'll talk about those guys in just a second. We do want to give a shout out to the people who make this podcast possible. Well, you guys first. How about the live crowd? Huh? Let's give it up to the live crowd. You guys can make noise.
You guys, calm down. It's late.
How about you guys getting us to 20,000 subs? Oh my God, insane. Also, shout out to our friends, our presenting sponsor, Sentivo Vineyards and Winery.
I love them as human beings and their wine. And it's just a great combo because, oh, wait, they're also Kings fans. Just a fantastic family, but fantastic wine. Their wineries, their tasting rooms, so beautiful. They have another one coming out in the Fairfield area in spring 2025. You can go to sentivovineyards.com and you can check out how you can become a member. There's so many perks too to becoming a member. They're doing like a Court of Dreams event where they get to do with all their members on the Golden One Center floor. We'll be at that event as well. So super excited for that. But like I said, just a great family and some great wine as well. And we'll be talking more about the wines as we drink them on other nights.
Yeah. And big Kings fan. So go to sentivovineyards.com for all the information on that. Shout out to them. And also shout out to our friends over at Golden One Credit Union, golden1.com. It'll change your life as a Kings fan. Why? Because you can join up, get 50% off Kings home games, 15% off merch. Bank with Golden One. Go to golden1creditunion.com or scan that QR code. We are all one with Golden One, the official credit union of the Sacramento Kings. Also presented by our friends over at Medic Ambulance.
We're thrilled to team up with Medic Ambulance, and they are the trusted name in emergency medical services across Northern California. From life-saving responses.
Someone need to save your life right now? Do I need to call Medic?
Thank you. Please do, actually. To being the team behind the scenes at your favorite events, Medic is there to serve. Medic is the official emergency medical response partner of Sac Republic and Sac State Athletics. You can learn more at medicambulance.net. They're literally everywhere. Like, I've seen them on the street pretty much everywhere the last couple of days.
Medic is the official emergency medical response partner of the Sac Republic and Sac State Athletics, and I'm repeating it again.
Yeah, why?
Because
you're tired.
Stinger's up, and I might be tired. Appreciate their support. The Deuce and Mo podcast. All right, Morgan Reagan. Let's put a bow on the NBA trade deadline for the Sacramento Kings. It is all over. The Kings make a deadline deal at the buzzer. Monty McNair came through late. It was a 3-team deal involving the Wizards, the Grizzlies, and the Kings, where you saw Marcus Smart get moved from Memphis to Washington. That deal did not work out for the Grizzlies. He went with a first round pick over to Washington. The Kings send out Colby Jones and Alex Len in a second round pick. The second goes to Memphis. Alex Len, Colby Jones, they head to the Washington Wizards. And coming back to the Sacramento Kings, Jake LaRavia.
Oh, yeah.
Jake LaRavia, and we did a clip on this earlier, but for the podcast audience, 6'7", 6'9.5" wingspan, and you read about his development here in his third year. Like, you love everything you hear from Taylor Jenkins to Desmond Bain to Brandon Clark, all kind of just like pumping up this guy's ability to make winning plays on the floor. What stands out to you about this move for Jake LaRavia?
Well, that and just being long, right? I think how many times I've talked about, the Kings need a wing at the trade deadline. We all have. But they need a wing that is capable of actually being in the rotation, being out there on the floor, not just being like maybe can they develop this guy? He's promising. He's young, whatever. And what Jake LaRavia has been doing, especially this season, being that hustle guy, being able to get those deflections, being able to defend, but also shooting 44% from three-point land, only taking about 2 a game anyway, but just being efficient with his shots and just being active when he's out there. So I'm excited to have more length, 6'9" wingspan, I believe you said.
6'9.5", dude.
Stop 6'9.5". So I'm excited to have more length with this roster. And again, you're just turning to the bench, more depth, with some size that we keep talking about the Kings lacking.
Well, I think it's a win to add his size. You kept Trey Lyles at the deadline. You add Jonas Valančiūnas.
Yes,
I'm like, okay, like good. Like that. I think your bench is better after today, and I'm excited for LaRavia to get in the mix here because he is going to be an active player. Like, you're going to notice him out there. He plays with confidence. He's got a high basketball IQ. The deflection rate. USA Today did a story on this. Just on his development this year, and 3.6 deflections per 36 minutes. He's a menace when it comes to getting loose balls, very good as a cutter. And so you're like, okay, like, you just seem like you fit in. And it's the exact type of player that the Kings need. They don't need another guy that's going to command a lot of shots, right? You have probably too much of that on this team, right?
Yes.
Like that's one of the challenges.
Role players.
But to have a role player that's going to buy in and just do the dirty work, he embraces that, and I think that's exciting. The challenge, though, becomes this. Why was he available? Well, the Grizzlies did not pick up his fourth-year team option. He's kind of banged up the first couple of years. You know, they have to think big picture on things. Are they going to, bring this guy back? Well, they went, you know what? We might as well get some sort of asset because we're limited as to what we could pay him next year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now he's in Sacramento, and the Kings become limited as to what they could pay him next year. In fact, according to Bobby Marks, they can only pay him a little over $5 million max next year. if they love him, it's like, ooh, that's going to be tough to keep him. Now, who knows? Maybe he doesn't command that much. It's not a big deal, but it's just something worth noting that the max that they got offer him is right around $5 million.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, if you're McNair, it's like, who the hell? You just need a player like him. A guy who's got size, can shoot the three and play defense and do the dirty work. Yeah, that's the guy. I want that guy on my team coming off my bench.
Yeah. And that's it. Coming off the bench. That's what you're asking him to do.
Yeah.
And like Deuce said, those are the type of players that you keep needing to add to your roster. Not just like, oh, what if guys? You need to add guys that you've seen do this off of other teams' benches.
And it also helps that Memphis has just an abundance of players in depth. And they could be like, yeah, we can lose LaRavia because like, oh, G.G. Jackson's back after his injury, right? They've just got so many players coming off their bench. Their bench is super productive. Hey, Jay Huff, out of nowhere. You know, like it's insane. Scottie Pippen Jr. I mean, he's been a spot starter for them. So anyway, I'm excited to see Jake LaRavia play for the Kings. Jonas Valančiūnas, we briefly hit on him tonight, Morgan, but there was like a sense of relief for me, even when Sabonis fouled out. But before that, in the first half, when you went to the bench, and I'm so used to going, oh God, can you just survive these fucking minutes? Okay. Here we go. And now you bring in Valančiūnas, who, right when he came into the game, hits his shot. He launched like 3 shots in the first 90 seconds he was out there.
He wasn't afraid to launch. He wasn't afraid to be a threat.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of talked about it early on in the podcast when I mentioned him. And so, yeah, excited to see Jonas Valančiūnas out there a little bit more first night. So excited to see a bigger sample size.
Yeah. Great screener. Tough. Dude, when he ripped that one rebound away underneath their basket.
Oh, yeah.
That was nasty. I can tell Morgan's getting tight. She's fading right now, and it's okay. I don't blame you. I'm fading too. You're just being really short on your Valančiūnas answers. And
I talked about him earlier.
Yeah,
and then I was like, did
briefly,
Deuce not listen?
We did not do a deep dive on Valančiūnas. You briefly mentioned like 2 things on him.
Well, you mentioned a little bit more, and then I was like, yeah, but I did. I promise.
Okay.
But I could keep talking about him because I like him that much. I do.
He's great for vibes. I just noticed him too, like standing up. I mean, he had the play where there was a turnover. He's pointing the other direction. Like, that's the guy. Like, he just brings good vibes, man. And I think LaRavia will too. So post trade deadline, your bench looks like you got Valančiūnas, LaRavia, Keon Ellis, Trey Lyles, Devin Carter, Isaac Jones. Like, okay. It's an upgraded bench.
Yeah.
So
I need more of a sample size of games.
Yeah, of course. Well, they get the Pelicans coming up. I mentioned they play 3 of the next 4 against New Orleans, 1 in Sacramento, then the last 2 in New Orleans. A Pelicans team that has lost 7 in a row. They traded Brandon Ingram. They obviously have struggled this year with a ton of injuries. They've won 12 games. During this span, by the way, I think the last 10, they're last in defense. But Trey Murphy's a bucket. He's dropped 40 or more twice. Once against Denver, once against Boston. Zion's still a force. CJ
King's killer.
King's fucking killer. So I'm not like overlooking them, but like if we are at the point like you got to win these games, so like you have to find a way to build some chemistry fast and win these games. You're running out of games here. But hopefully the Kings can maybe get something going offensively against a team that's not known for being a good defensive team this year. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. And maybe figure some things out against a team that is broken and hasn't been playing well, but like we said, has pieces. So beware. Be careful.
Who would be your simply the best player of the game for today's game?
Probably I could go with are we gonna go with Kamara?
You know what? I thought about it, but I felt like you had to go Anthony Simons.
You could go Simons easily.
He hit 8 threes in this game.
Yeah.
8 of 12. He hit half of the Blazers' threes in this game. The Kings hit 10 as a team. He hit 8 on his own. And you just think, man, maybe if he doesn't hit, maybe he goes 6 of 12, the Kings have a chance to win. But the guy was just red hot, on fire,
Fine.
and then he got good looks, and you're just like, okay, why'd you go under that screen? Okay, I wouldn't. It's Anthony Simons.
I'm like, you can't be tired tonight. Like
Who?
the Kings.
I know.
You have a job to do out there.
What are you doing?
I'm kidding because we're tired.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
It's-
you
I
can't
get
be
it.
tired. But second night of a back-to-back too, and again, I look at those things and I try to factor everything in, not as an excuse, almost as a like, I hope that was the case. I hope it's just all new and that it all just comes together.
Yeah, to me, it's more about like, yeah, it's just not a lot of time together. That's the reality, and so now you got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out fast.
Mm.
I want to make sure. I don't know if we got any super
Yeah, we
chats tonight.
did.
But I trying to do a better job. Thanks so much to Rob for becoming a supporter.
Thanks.
Laylo donating a couple of bucks, saying DeMar LaVine need to be the spark plug off the bench. I know. Yeah,
Or
I think something
Levine,
like
yeah.
it. JF donating $5. Y'all got the best style. I'm a Mavs fan, but I F with you two and Mo.
Hey,
Are you talking about like our clothes or what, man?
like our pod or our clothes? 'Cause, like,
This Nike quarter zip do it for you, man? No,
Someone
I
did-
think he means our vibe.
Oh.
Thanks so much to Chris for becoming a member, saying we love you. Well, we love you too, man.
we do love you.
We love you so much. Yeah, but anyway, Anthony Simons are simply the best player of the game. That's presented by Northwest Exteriors. Check out northwestexteriors.com because Morgan Ray, they are simply
They're
the,
the
best.
best.
Trust
Trust
Northwest. B Stone says we want immaculate vibes back. I know everybody wants that, and winning will help that. I am just going to caution some of you guys right now not to like panic about what it looks like early on. I think the defensive stuff you should definitely be concerned about, and some of the lineup shit. Yeah. But I think offensively, I'm not going to be worried about what this team can do. I think we haven't seen the best of Zach LaVine yet, and I'm eager to see the best of Zach LaVine because we need to fast. Oh man.
Oh, we do.
Royale, Deuce and Mo, how do you separate your love and frustration for the Kings and your sanity?
Oh,
Great question. Therapy. I don't know. I mean, I think that's helped me balance it this year.
that's fair.
I,
Just different tools of how you handle things or like deal with emotions too.
yeah, you just process things better. And I think what I always come back to now is like, you know what? I've been a Kings fan most of my life. I've seen a lot of lows, but I remember the highs.
Yeah.
And I think what I always come back to is like, it's going to be okay. Like,
Even if it's not.
yeah, even if like right now, I'm like, honestly, big picture, like I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, where is this shit headed? But like, it's going to be okay.
And-
because guess what? I still had fun during times when they were bad.
Well, and that's what I was gonna
It's-
say. Like that's all that matters. Well, not all. Like I love the winning, and I would love to win a championship or something one day. But at the same time, like part of the journey and the challenges and like the really bad times, I think the funnest thing about it has been being around this community. Because like what else would I be doing with my life? You know, like what else would I be complaining about or analyzing or being upset about? It's way more fun to do it with just like a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. And I think right now,
What else? would I
I'm
do?
feeling good because I just think it's early and I think this group is talented enough to get it together and make it interesting. And we'll see what it looks like. It's not like I'm sitting here going, guys, just trust me. I think this is a championship team. We just got to show it. Like, I think we're all realistic with where this team is at. It's like, I'm playing and maybe you get in and have a fun series or
I'm
I don't know.
such a loser.
But what?
Just because my whole life revolves around this. I'm like, yeah.
No, this is great. Guess what? You're not a loser. You're with a whole bunch of people
That's
almost at 1 a.m.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying literally like I'm like, yeah, what else would I be doing
Yeah.
with my life?
Yeah.
But I love this life. That's like, this is what I would rather be doing. So thank you.
What do you think about the Fox drama? Here's what I'm going to say. Like, breakups are tough. It's tough.
Oh yeah.
And I think the best thing for all parties is to just go on. De'Aaron's just got to go play basketball in San Antonio. He'll play it at a high level.
Absolutely.
Can't get caught up in like the he said this, she said that. It is what it is, man. Like these things are never fun. I personally don't love to get caught up in it because it's like, what's the point now? Like I'm not. I just for me, I can speak for myself. I'm not going to start rooting against De'Aaron Fox now. Like sorry, he provides some joy in my life. I like him as a player. I wish him nothing but the best. Now, when he comes to Sacramento, I hope he goes 0 for 27.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And the Kings smack him around. But that's just how I look at it.
And also like what divorce or breakup that even people say like we're gonna end up being friends or everything's gonna be okay actually ends that way. Like even if you can end cordial, like there's still going to be those like, why are they telling people this? Why is he telling people that? It's going to happen. Like that's just going to happen. Breakups, and so it's like this is all very normal, except it's just put on a way more public scale because.
Well, and yeah, I mean, then you
the NBA.
Yes, there's so many people talking, right? Like, you
Yeah.
hear people like us and content creators and broadcasts and ESPN and social media everywhere. People are talking, so there's so much noise coming your way, and you gotta like try to lock some of that out, and just focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
That's if I was De'Aaron Fox's Paul Heyman, if I was his advocate, I would just be like, this doesn't matter. Like the Sacramento stuff.
Focus on King.
The Sacramento stuff is like a fire that's smoldering, right? You know, you don't need to fan flames or say anything about it. You just gotta. It's gonna
let it die down.
Just let it die down, man. People are emotional right now. This is hard right now. You go do your thing with Victor. We're
on
gonna
the
go
floor.
do our thing
On the floor.
Don't worry about it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. No. And hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, it will. But like you said, these things are not always like smooth.
Like we all want everything to be smooth in life, but then it would just be too easy.
Yeah, way too easy. Final thoughts, Morgan Reagan.
Final thoughts. Sorry if I didn't give you the energy I could in this last podcast of the day. Just go listen to the first podcast of the day.
That's on our YouTube page for you audio people. We did a stream of the deadline. Then we did a little car cast thing, I guess, where we talked about the LaRavia trade and the deadline. It's been a busy stretch.
And then we were on NBC Sports California for those whatever shows that we do.
Yeah.
And so being here and just having to be late, I just feel bad. Like it won't happen again like this.
Okay.
So no, because
relax.
What? I'll never be this tired again on a podcast.
Okay, it's okay that you're no one's
Don't talk to me.
Golly. Yeah, you're good. You're good. It's been you know what I love?
What?
We made it through another trade deadline.
Hell yeah.
So my final thought is this is we all wanted to see them make some moves.
Yeah.
We had been clowning the front office for a long time, like, oh, you're gonna close the deal for once. And they closed some. Now, what will it result into? We'll find out, I guess, together. But I'm like, all right, you got to back up big now. You got to win. Okay, I see it now. Like, let's get it together. I'm just glad we got through the deadline. This last week and a half has been an emotional roller coaster for Kings fans.
Yeah.
With all the drama, the losses on the road, the trade. It's like, we're through it now.
Also, thanks for all the love in the chat. People are just so sweet. And we are through it now. And we all got through it together. So it's great. And thank you. We see you. Thank you guys.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys so much. The biggest thing you could do, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Also, after the show, drop comments below. Tell us how you're feeling. Are you like concerned, panic button about this new change, a new era? Or are you like, let's wait and see, man. Let's see the Pelicans game. After the Pelicans game, panic button everywhere. Just let us know in the comments below. We love you guys so much. But we got to go.
You all have a wonderful rest of your night. See ya.
She can't even say that.
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.